Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Surely, you've heard of the narrative of Moses, the Israelite Semite who led God's chosen people out of the land of Egypt, freeing them from the house of bondage. However, perhaps you've never questioned who the Pharaoh was during Moses' time. Who was the ruler mentioned in the book of Exodus, the one who defied and resisted the power of the God of Israel? That's the topic I'll address in this video. Please, share your likes and comments, and stay tuned for the complete content. Who was the Pharaoh in the time of Moses? Many question the identity of the famous Pharaoh from the book of Exodus, the one who resisted God and had a hardened heart, refusing to release the Israelite slaves. The Bible, a book that extensively covers ancient Egypt, mentions various pharaohs, including the founder of the ancient Egyptian empire. Additionally, it refers to several pharaohs in different contexts, such as during the time of Joseph, Abraham, and especially Moses. There's a common tendency to associate the Pharaoh of Moses' time with the famous Ramses II, a figure widely known due to movies and series. However, this identification is incorrect for primarily chronological reasons. According to biblical chronology, it is impossible for Ramses II to be the Pharaoh of the book of Exodus. Therefore, exploring and understanding who the Pharaoh really was in this historical context can provide a more accurate perspective on the events narrated in the Bible. The Pharaoh who faced Moses and Aaron is the subject of a significant archaeological find that challenges the notion that Ramses was the Pharaoh of Moses' time. This interpretation proves incorrect for various reasons, mainly because Ramses did not engage in a battle or war against slaves or servants of Semitic origin. Furthermore, during the time of Ramses II, there were not as many Semites as commonly believed. An important clarification comes from the discovery of the Merneptah stele, a historical landmark revealing a significant war. Pharaoh Merneptah marched into the land of Canaan and faced various Canaanite peoples. Notably, the stele mentions Israel as a constituted nation, an organized society, and not just a group of slaves or a nomadic people. This evidence contradicts the idea that the Israelites were merely a disorganized assembly. It's crucial to note that the dates of the Merneptah stele go back to 1207 BC, or 3,207 years before Christ, highlighting the complexity and antiquity of the historical events in question. The Israelites had already settled in the land of Canaan, were stabilized, and had surpassed 40 years in the desert. During this period, they faced Canaanite peoples and conquered their lands. The markers of the Israelites' territory in Canaan indicate that for all this to happen, the time of Moses must have occurred at least 150 years before the reign of Merneptah. This conclusion is based on the need for a substantial amount of time for the Israelites to establish and consolidate themselves in the land of Canaan before Merneptah entered Egypt and confronted them as an already formed people. This evidence contradicts the idea that Ramses II would be the Pharaoh of the book of Exodus. Instead, it suggests that the Pharaoh during Moses' time was Thutmose III. Thutmose III, also known as Thutmose, Thutmosis, or Thutmosis III, was a pharaoh of ancient Egypt from the 18th dynasty, circa 1479 to 1425 BC. He is often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt due to his military skills and the extent of his empire. Thutmose III is considered one of the greatest pharaohs of ancient Egypt and is best known for his successful military campaigns. He ascended to the throne after the death of his stepmother, Queen Hatshepsut, who was one of the few women to rule Egypt as a pharaoh. Thutmose III began his career as a general in the army and eventually rose to the throne in 1479 BC after Hatshepsut's death. At the beginning of his reign, his authority was limited by the advisors of his stepmother, but he eventually consolidated his power and initiated a series of military campaigns that would shape his legacy. Thutmose III's most famous military campaign was the Battle of Megiddo, fought around 1457 BC. This battle is notable for being one of the first documented in history, and Thutmose III detailed it in inscriptions on the walls of the Temple of Karnak. The victory at Megiddo significantly expanded the Egyptian Empire, giving Thutmose III control over a large part of the Levant region. In addition to his military conquests, Thutmose III was an active builder, contributing to various construction projects, including temples and monuments. He was also a devotee of various Egyptian deities and performed various religious activities during his reign. Archaeological research and historical evidence continue to shed light on the events and characters of antiquity, providing a more accurate understanding of biblical times. Pharaoh Thutmose III emerges as a possible central figure in the book of Exodus, the pharaoh who confronted Moses and God. It is intriguing to explore the meaning of the name Thutmose, which, in Egyptian, denotes born of Thut or son of Thut, referring to an ancient Egyptian deity. It's fascinating to note that the beginning of the name Thutmose, Tut, shares a phonetic similarity with the name Moses. In the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, Moses is often identified as a common pharaonic patronymic, reflecting the practice of the time. As for the meaning of the name Moses, it's essential to highlight its Egyptian origin, not Hebrew or Phoenician. Contrary to common misconceptions, the name Moses was given by the pharaoh's daughter when she found the Israelite baby in the basket on the banks of the Nile River. The pharaoh's daughter chose an Egyptian name for the baby, which became Moses. In the ancient Aramaic language, the name Moses is pronounced as Mushi. These linguistic and cultural insights add layers of understanding to the figure of Moses in the historical context of ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, choosing names was a significant process and often charged with cultural, religious, and social significance. The Egyptians believed that a person's name was an essential part of their identity and had a direct impact on their life, both in the present and after death. The first name, known as the given name, was often chosen based on specific circumstances, such as the conditions of birth, important events, or desired characteristics for the child. This name was often linked to deity or some notable event. The ancient Hebrew Phoenician version of the name Moses is Moshe, and both share the same meaning, translating to drawn from the waters, or son of the waters. It is interesting to observe that the termination ses present in Ramses is similar to the ending in Moses, both indicating son of. This parallel emphasizes the possibility of a linguistic and meaningful connection between the two names. The ses termination, meaning son of, leads us to consider the hypothesis that Moses's original name may have been modified due to influences from Egyptian paganism. It is likely that the pharaoh's daughter chose the name Moses in reference to some deity associated with the Nile River, considering that the child was found in the river's waters. Regarding chronology, it is suggested that the time of Moses is more accurately around 1500 BCE, or 1480 BCE, rather than 1200 BCE. In this temporal context, the story of Moses and his leadership in the liberation of the people of Israel with the power of God would have taken place. This discussion on chronology highlights the complexity and the need for a careful analysis of historical evidence, including the location in the tomb of Thutmose III. Various pieces of evidence corroborate the truthfulness of the biblical account in the book of Exodus, especially when examining the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose III. The tomb mentions a great flood, associated with the event of the Red Sea crossing. Remarkably, this account describes the passage of a large crowd through the waters. Interestingly, in the tomb of Thutmose III, we do not find his body or mummy, but rather that of a person much younger than him. Biblical archaeology has also provided discoveries such as chariot wheel axles of the pharaoh, along with various other artifacts. These pieces of evidence contribute to the authenticity of sacred scriptures, supporting events like the crossing of the Red Sea. It's noteworthy that the tomb of Thutmose III suggests not only the occurrence of the flood but also the possible tragedy involving the pharaoh himself, whose fate was sealed in the Red Sea. We appreciate everyone who has followed the video up to this point. Share your comments if you were familiar with the pharaoh of Moses' time, and send us suggestions on other scriptural topics you'd like to see a video on. God bless you.